So, when you hear a company talk about cutting its carbon footprint, where do they even begin? It all starts with something called Scope 1 emissions. These are the emissions that a company has direct control over. In this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what they are and why they're the absolute first step in any real climate strategy. This question right here, it gets to the very heart of it. I mean, if you look at a company's huge environmental impact, what part of that can they actually get their hands on and change? That whole idea of direct responsibility, that is the key to understanding Scope 1. A great way to think about a company's emissions is like a ripple effect. You toss a stone in a pond. It starts with their direct actions right there in the center, and then the impact just radiates outward. Well, those ripples are sorted into three different categories, or scopes. And this isn't just a random analogy. There's an official framework for it. It's called the Greenhouse Gas Protocol. And it gives us these three distinct buckets. Scope 1, that's the stone hitting the water. It's the direct action that starts the whole ripple. Scopes 2 and 3, those are the rings that spread out from there.
Okay, so what's the official definition? Let's get really specific here, because it's the details that make Scope 1 so powerful and honestly so actionable for any business out there.
And here it is. The most important word here is direct. Scope 1 emissions come from sources that a company physically owns or has direct control over. Just burn these words into your brain: direct, owned, and controlled. If a company can turn it on or off, fill it up with fuel, or is the one responsible for fixing it, the emissions are almost certainly Scope 1.
This little comparison makes it crystal clear. A company's very own delivery truck burning gas, that is a direct Scope 1 emission. Totally. But the electricity they buy to light up the office, that's indirect. Why? Because the company doesn't own or control the power plant generating that electricity. That simple distinction between direct and indirect, well, it's everything.
So, we know Scope 1 emissions are direct. We've got that down. But where specifically do they come from? It turns out they fall into three main categories, or buckets. The first source is the one you'd probably guess: fuel that's burned right on site. Think of things like factory boilers or furnaces. The second is also pretty straightforward: emissions from all the vehicles the company owns, their entire fleet. But it's this third category that often gets overlooked: fugitive emissions. These are basically unintentional leaks from equipment, like your air conditioners.
Let's just pause on those fugitive emissions for a second, because they are a huge deal. The refrigerants used in cooling systems are incredibly potent greenhouse gases. We're talking hundreds or even thousands of times more powerful than carbon dioxide. This means a seemingly tiny, insignificant leak from an AC unit can have a massive, massive warming impact.
Okay, so now we know what Scope 1 emissions are and where they come from. But why do they matter so much? Why is this always the starting point for any serious corporate climate strategy?
Well, all the focus on Scope 1 really comes down to a few key reasons. For one, they're the most straightforward to measure. I mean, a company knows exactly how much fuel it buys, right? That makes them an obvious, easy target for regulations. But it's not just about rules. Taking action here sends a really clear signal that you're committed. And you better believe that investors are now watching this data very, very closely.
Honestly, it really just boils down to this. Scope 1 emissions are the low-hanging fruit. They come from sources a company directly owns and controls, which makes them the most immediate and powerful place to start making a real difference.
So as we start to wrap this up, let's just put it all together. Understanding and tackling the emissions you are directly responsible for, that isn't just one part of a sustainability plan. It is the very foundation of the whole thing.
And that leaves us with this final thought. Getting a handle on your Scope 1 emissions isn't just about accounting or checking a box for compliance. It is the critical first step. It's the move that makes every other action possible on the path to building a truly sustainable and responsible business. The question is, once companies have picked all that low-hanging fruit, what happens next?